historian and professor of history at Virginia College in Charleston, South Carolina. Parents can leave their children wonderful things. I was lucky enough to have been raised by a couple of pretty good parents. This is my mother, Pearl Fordham, who died February 27, 2012, at the age of 91. And she was married to my dad, Abe Fordham. Abraham Fordham, for 30 years, taught at Lang High School in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. So it's not very uncommon that I run into people who he taught, or people who my mother had as patients. But on the anniversary of my father's death recently, I walked over to his grave. And I received a very great gift from my dad, ironically, some 31 years after his passing. Anyway, I walked to his grave, cleaned it off, and cleaned off that of my mother, and I was walking home when I ran into one of my father's students, a guy with the nickname of Razor. His last name was McNeil. I never did know what his real name was, as often the case in southern areas. So, he asked me, "Hey, Damon, what you doing?" And I told him that I'd gone off to clean off my father's grave. And he said, "Let me tell you something about your daddy." Now, when things like this happen, people can tend to get a little tense, because when you're talking about the death of a parent, people tend to have foot and mouth disease. They tend to want to say the right things, but they wind up saying things that make you feel worse instead of better. Not this time. Razor told me the following story. He said, "You see, Dame, your dad was a man of war," referring to the fact that my father had fought in the Second World War over in Saipan, Southeast Asia, by Japan. And this was during the Vietnam War. Well, we had this fellow in this class whose name I won't say right now, and he came out to Vietnam. So he came back from Vietnam, and oftentimes he would go back to Lang High School in his full uniform. Long after he was supposed to finish school, he went back to school in his full uniform and would sit there in class just like he belonged there. So nowadays, Razor went on to say, people would have called the police on him, and he would have been escorted out of the school and so forth. He might have gone to jail for trespassing, but not your daddy. This fellow would come to your daddy's class, and he would sit there with his uniform on from Vietnam, and your dad would say, "Well, so-and-so, it's good to see you here today," and call his name on the roll just like he belonged there, like nothing happened. And after a while, he eventually stopped coming. But still, Razor went on to say, your dad didn't make this fellow feel out of place for being there. Your daddy figured that this young man had served his country, and he was still adjusting to coming back. May have been a little shell-shocked, but still, he felt he deserved that decency for having served his country. So therefore, your father acted like there was nothing wrong. And for that, I'll always respect your daddy. Now, what's the point of this story? Very simple. When you're a parent, or even if you're an uncle or an aunt, or somebody close to the child, the best present that you can give to that child is to leave behind a legacy that people will tell your children or your nieces and nephews stories like that about you, and make them feel proud to have been a part of you. This is Damon Fordham.